The Galactic Council was created long before humans reached the stars. It was meant to be the heart of peace, a place where every species, no matter how old or how young, could send their leaders to speak, to argue, and to solve conflicts without war. For centuries, the Council worked. At least that was what history books claimed. But peace was never free. Peace often came with hidden chains, and the strong always found ways to bind the weak. When humanity first stepped into the galactic stage, the Council watched them with curiosity. The older races believed Earth was just another young world that would take centuries to matter. They thought humans would move slowly, make mistakes, and then fade into the background of galactic politics. But humans were different. In only a few decades, Earth built colonies where others had failed. They landed on frozen worlds where even the cold-blooded species would not dare. They dug cities beneath toxic skies where alien machines had broken down. On death worlds filled with storms and poisonous seas, humans planted flags and called them home. Where others saw only death, humans found survival. Where others saw impossibility, humans built futures. The Council began to whisper. Not openly, never in public. But in the shadowed halls and private chambers, words spread like poison. Humans expand too quickly. Their numbers grow too fast. They adapt to anything. If we let them continue, what will be left for us? Fear crept into the voices of those who once thought themselves untouchable. They had ruled for thousands of years, but now a young species, barely a child among the stars, was growing with terrifying speed. At first, the Council tried small things: taxes on human colonies, trade restrictions, fines for safety violations on planets humans were never supposed to colonize in the first place. These were meant to slow Earth down, to choke progress without open conflict. But humanity did not stop. Instead, they adapted again. When trade was blocked, they built their own. When fines came, they paid them with bitter smiles and then built even more. When the galaxy said no, humans simply found another way to say yes. The whispers grew louder. Finally, the Council decided enough was enough. Behind locked doors, they voted. They told themselves it was for the good of the galaxy. They told themselves humans were reckless, dangerous, and had to be contained before they brought ruin to all. The decree was announced across every star system. Its words were cold and polished, filled with legal terms and false kindness. Humanity was banned from further expansion. Existing colonies would be monitored by Council inspectors. Certain colonies, considered unsafe, would be relocated under alien supervision. They called it protection. They called it order. They called it necessary, but everyone knew the truth. This was not protection. It was control. It was fear disguised as law. It was the Council's attempt to chain a species that refused to bow. When the news reached Earth, there was silence. No shouting. No riots at first, only a heavy silence that spread across cities, colonies, and stations. Billions of people stared at the Council's words, and every man, woman, and child understood what they meant. The galaxy was not afraid of humanity's weakness. The galaxy was afraid of humanity's strength. Mothers held their children closer, wondering if tomorrow would bring alien soldiers to their doors. Workers in shipyards stared at the stars with clenched fists, remembering the sacrifices their families made to build lives on distant worlds. Soldiers, both old and young, felt a fire stirring in their hearts, and deep within that silence, something else was born. Not fear, not surrender, but fury. For humanity had endured too much to accept chains. They had bled on alien soil, broken their bones on hostile worlds, and buried their dead under skies no one else dared to claim. They had built their future with sweat and blood, and no decree could erase that. The Council had drawn a line in the stars. They thought humanity would step back, but they had forgotten one thing. Humans never step back. At the edge of human space, far from Earth's blue oceans and green fields, there was a world called Ardent Flame. The name was no accident. The planet was violent, its skies heavy with red storms and its lands cracked by rivers of molten rock. The air was hot and heavy, the ground unstable, the storms endless. Most alien races had called it cursed. They said no one could ever live there, but humans had proved them wrong. The colonists of Ardent Flame built strong cities inside mountains of stone. They used the fire of the planet to power their machines. They grew food in underground caverns lit by artificial suns. They planted forests and shielded domes and raised children under the roar of storms. To them, Ardent Flame was not cursed. It was home. When the council's decree arrived, the people of Ardent Flame read it in disbelief. Monitored, relocated, their children taken from the world they had fought so hard to tame, it felt like a blade in the back. The colony governor, a woman named Ilara Voss, sent a message to Earth. Her words were not the polished phrases of diplomats. They were raw, filled with the voice of a mother protecting her family. We did not suffer on this world to see it taken from us. We are not weak. We are not yours to command. We were born free. We will live free. If they come to chain us, we will resist. Her words spread faster than the decree itself. Every colony, every station, every settlement repeated her vow. People whispered her name as if it were a flame in the dark, but the council would not allow defiance. They moved quickly. Alien warships painted with the council's emblem of order and unity jumped into the skies above Ardent Flame. Their commanders used soft words in their first broadcast. This is not conquest. This is pacification. For your safety, surrender your weapons and accept our supervision. The colonists did not surrender. The council's commanders gave one last warning, their voices cold. If you resist, force will be applied, and so force came. The first strike was against the colony's defense grid. Brilliant lights crossed the sky as alien weapons smashed through human shields. Towers fell. Power systems broke. Still, the colonists fought back. Old ships, mining lasers, even improvised cannons were turned against the invaders. Farmers took rifles. Engineers turned into soldiers. Mothers and fathers defended their homes with desperate courage. But courage was not enough. The alien fleets were too many. Their weapons too strong. Their orders too merciless. The pacification became slaughter. Cities burned. Domes cracked. The underground farms, the lifeblood of the colony, were bombed until nothing grew. Thousands died in hours, tens of thousands more in days. And when it was over, the aliens left behind silence. Silence broken only by the crackle of fire and the cries of the few survivors who had lost everything. Yet the council did not know their greatest mistake. They had recorded everything. Images of burning homes, of colonists falling while defending their children, of Governor Ilara Voss making her last stand in the ruins of her command center. All of it was captured, and all of it was leaked. The recordings spread across human networks like wildfire. Every colony, every family, every soldier saw the truth with their own eyes. This was not peace. This was not order. This was murder. On Earth, people gathered in silence in front of massive screens. In colonies far across the stars, children cried while their parents clenched their fists. Soldiers watched with fire in their eyes. The council thought fear would keep humans quiet, but fear had burned away. What remained was fury. The colony of Ardent Flame had fallen, but its spirit had risen. The galaxy had witnessed the first spark of rebellion. Humanity would not forget. Humanity would not forgive. And from that day, every man, woman, and child knew one truth. The council had crossed the line. When the last flames of Ardent Flame died, a darker fire was born in the hearts of all humanity. On Earth, the recordings of the colony's destruction played again and again. Streets once filled with the noise of daily life were now silent as crowds gathered around giant screens. People who had never agreed on anything before, politics, religion, nations, now stood together in the same grief. They all watched the same terrible images. Children crying, families running, ships exploding in the storm-filled skies. For a time, there was only silence. But it was not the silence of defeat. It was the silence before a storm. The leaders of Earth called an emergency meeting. For centuries, humanity had been divided by nations and governments, but this time the differences seemed small, even meaningless. Representatives from every land stood in the same room, their faces hard with sorrow and fury. No one argued about blame. No one argued about who would lead. Instead, they spoke with one voice. Humanity would never forgive what was done. Generals returned from retirement. Admirals who had once stepped down were called back to service. Shipyards that had been quiet for years suddenly roared with life. Every worker knew they were not just building ships, they were building vengeance. Colonies across the stars joined in. Mining worlds sent their ore. Farming colonies gave their supplies. Even the smallest outposts hidden on barren rocks sent volunteers to fight. People who had never held a weapon before begged to be trained. It was not war for conquest. It was not war for power. It was war for justice. Across human space, one cry spread like thunder, for ardent flame. That cry was painted on warships. It was shouted in military camps. It was whispered in the homes of mothers and fathers as they sent their children to join the fleet. The council had thought humanity would bow. Instead, humanity was rising. Everywhere, preparations grew. Massive carriers were awakened from their silent orbits. Fighters were rebuilt and upgraded. Old war machines, once left as museum pieces, were pulled back into service. Factories that once made tools and household goods now forged weapons of war. The galaxy had never seen such speed. In weeks, humanity did what others could not do in years. It was as if every loss, every death, every tear was fueling the fire of creation. But it was not just steel and fire. It was spirit. On one training world, a young recruit named Kale lifted his rifle and said, "They burned my cousin's home. I will not stop until they pay." Around him, dozens of voices rose, each with their own story of loss, each with their own vow of vengeance. In orbit above Earth, Admiral Juno Markel looked at the fleet assembling. Row upon row of ships glimmered against the stars, each one ready, each one filled with men and women who carried fury in their hearts. "This is not just a fleet," she whispered. "This is a storm." And so the storm grew. Alien spies reported back to the council with trembling voices. "They are mobilizing. Millions are enlisting. Shipyards burn day and night." The council laughed at first. "Humans are reckless. They will break themselves before they reach us." But even among the council, fear began to spread. They remembered the resilience of humans. They remembered the way humans thrived where others failed. And deep inside, they asked themselves a question they could not answer. What happens when all that resilience is turned into fury? The galaxy would soon find out. The storm had gathered. The silence was over. Humanity was coming. In the shining halls of the Galactic Council, voices rose like waves crashing against stone. The chamber, built to symbolize unity and peace, now shook with anger and fear. Counselors from dozens of species shouted over one another. Some demanded stronger action against humanity. Others whispered of regret, their words drowned by the noise. "They are mobilizing," one insectoid delegate hissed, its antenna trembling. "Millions of ship," another croaked, its scaled hands clutching the edge of its seat. "They should not have such numbers," a third said, voice breaking with disbelief. The council's leader, High Speaker Drazik, pounded his staff on the floor. "Silence," he roared. Slowly the voices died down, though the fear in their eyes remained. "They are only humans," Drazik continued, forcing his voice to sound strong. "They bleed like the rest of us. They can be broken like the rest of us." But his words did not ease the chamber, because deep down they all remembered the truth. Humans did not break. For centuries, the council had watched young races rise and fall. Some grew quickly, but their ambition burned out like a star collapsing too soon. Others never left their homeworlds, too fragile to face the galaxy. But humans were different. They had been tested by every kind of suffering, by wars, by hunger, by storms, by worlds that should have killed them. Yet each time they endured. That was what frightened the council most. Reports arrived daily. Alien spies brought back images of human shipyards glowing with fire, of recruits marching in endless lines, of fleets gathering in the blackness of space. The scale was unbelievable. "They build as if they have no limit," one counselor whispered. "They fight with their hearts, not just their weapons," another muttered. "And they do not forget," added a third. Some among the council begged for mercy. A small reptilian delegate named Vela stood and spoke with a trembling voice. "We must undo the decree. We must beg their forgiveness before it is too late. Humanity is not like the others we have crushed. If we do not stop, they will come for us and nothing will remain of our worlds." Her plea was met with scorn. "Beg forgiveness? Of humans?" snarled Drazik. "We are the council. We rule this galaxy. They are nothing but a young, reckless species. If they dare to challenge us, we will erase them as we erased others before." But even as he spoke, his eyes betrayed him. Behind his pride was fear. The chamber fell into uneasy silence. No one dared to openly admit the thought on every mind. What if Drazik was wrong? Outside the council's grand halls, the galaxy itself was watching. Many species who had suffered under the council's iron laws looked to humanity with secret hope. For years they had endured taxes, restrictions, and punishments. Now they saw a fire rising from Earth, a fire that might burn away the chains holding them down. Among the common people of alien worlds, whispers spread like wind. Perhaps the humans will bring change. Perhaps the humans will do what we never could. Perhaps the Council has finally met its match. The Council tried to silence those whispers with threats and punishment, but it was too late. The idea had already been born. Still in their arrogance, the Council pressed forward. Fleets were ordered to patrol the borders. More spies were sent to track human movements. Plans were drawn for a war they believed they could control, but fear lingered in every command. In his private chambers, High Speaker Drazik looked out at the stars. His hand shook as he poured himself a drink. The glass trembled against his lips. He whispered to himself words he would never admit aloud. They should have broken, but they have not. The Council thought they were still in control. They believed their power unshakable. But in the depths of space, a storm was already rising. Humanity was coming, and nothing in the galaxy could stop it. The edge of Council space had always been quiet. Patrol fleets moved lazily, confident no enemy would ever dare challenge them. For centuries, the Council's power had gone untested. But that silence ended the day humanity arrived. The first human fleet emerged from the void like a storm of steel. 700,000 warships filled the darkness, stretching farther than the eye could see. They came in perfect silence, no greetings, no signals of peace. Only the cold promise of war. Alien commanders stared at their scanners in disbelief. "This cannot be real," one whispered. "No species can field so many ships." But it was real. Humanity had forged every vessel in fury, and now they stood ready. The Council fleet sent a transmission. Their voices were steady, but their hands trembled. "Attention, human vessels. You are in violation of Council law. Turn back immediately or be destroyed." For a moment, the stars held their breath. Then came humanity's reply. It was not a threat. It was not a demand. It was the recording of a child's voice from ardent flame. The same child whose last cries had been captured when the colony burned. His voice echoed through the speakers of every Council ship. "Why are you doing this? Please, someone help us." The Council fleet froze. Many could not even look at the screen. And then, without another word, the human armada advanced. The first battle began with blinding light. Human warships opened fire with precision and fury. Railguns roared, plasma lances cut through shields, and missiles darkened the void like a swarm of vengeance. Council ships tried to respond, but they were unprepared. They had grown arrogant, too used to fighting weak rebellions and fractured species. They had never faced a foe united in rage. Human ships moved like a single living beast, coordinated and relentless. Squadrons sacrificed themselves to protect others. Destroyers shielded carriers. Carriers launched endless waves of fighters that struck like knives against the larger alien vessels. The Council commanders shouted orders, but their fleets crumbled. Their shields shattered under the sheer weight of human firepower. Their formations broke apart as panic spread. For the first time in centuries, the Council knew fear, not of rebellion, not of defiance, but of annihilation. On the human flagship, Admiral Juno Markel stood silent, watching the battle unfold. Her eyes did not show triumph, only cold determination. She raised her hand and gave the order every ship had been waiting for. "Leave none who raise their weapons against us." And so it was done. The Council fleet burned. Ship after ship exploded, their wreckage scattered across the stars. Those who tried to surrender were ignored. Humanity remembered ardent flame, where surrender had been met with fire. The battle was short. Too short. By the time the Council reinforcements arrived, nothing remained but debris, and the echo of a child's voice still playing across the frequencies. Across human space, the news spread like wildfire. The first strike had been made, and it was total victory. People cheered in the streets, tears streaming down their faces. For the first time since the tragedy of Ardent Flame, they felt justice, but the cheers did not last long. For everyone knew this was only the beginning. Humanity had drawn blood, and the Council would not forgive. Yet as Admiral Markel looked out at the stars, her voice was calm, filled with steel. "They wanted us to fear them. But now they will know what it means to fear us." The first strike was over. The storm of fury had begun. The first strike had shaken the galaxy, but it was only the beginning. Humanity's fury did not stop at the border. It swept forward like a tide, wave after wave of warships pushing deeper into Council space. Everywhere the humans went, The Council's fleets tried to resist. But resistance broke like glass beneath a hammer. Human tactics were brutal yet clever. They fought with passion, but also with precision. They used every lesson of hardship they had ever learned, from fighting on hostile worlds, from surviving endless wars in their own history, from never giving up even when hope seemed lost. Alien commanders quickly realized the truth. They were not fighting soldiers. They were fighting survivors. And survivors never stopped. World after world fell. Human fleets shattered orbital defenses, then moved on before reinforcements could arrive. Entire Council armadas were scattered like leaves in a storm. For every human ship that fell, 10 more seemed to rise in its place. On one Council world, the people looked up at the skies and saw human warships cutting through the stars like burning meteors. The Council soldiers there fought bravely, but when the battle ended, it was not the humans who destroyed the cities. It was the humans who freed the people. Instead of chains, the humans left food and medicine. Instead of overseers, they left promises of protection, and so whispers spread even faster than the war. The Council lied to us. The humans are not conquerors. They fight for justice. They fight for us too. The Council tried to silence those whispers with fear. They ordered mass executions of species that spoke in favor of humanity. They declared humans as criminals, monsters, destroyers of order. But the lies no longer worked, because everywhere the people had seen the truth with their own eyes. Meanwhile, inside human fleets, the fire of vengeance burned brighter with every victory. Soldiers painted the names of lost family members on their armor. Captains carried recordings of ardent flame, playing them before every battle to remind their crews why they fought. Even when exhaustion weighed on them, even when loss hurt them, the memory of the burning colony gave them strength. But vengeance alone was not the only force driving them. Something else was growing alongside the fury: hope. For the first time in living memory, alien species realized the Council was not unbreakable. The chains that had bound them for centuries could be shattered. They looked to humanity, not with fear but with desperate belief. If the humans could win, then maybe they all could be free. Council chambers became nests of panic. High Speaker Drazik and his allies screamed for more ships, more soldiers, more weapons. They threw everything they had into the war, but their fleets broke again and again against the storm. They had always thought humanity was reckless, fragile, short-lived. But now they saw what they had missed. Humans did not fight only to win. They fought to protect, to avenge, to endure. One alien commander, moments before his fleet was destroyed, sent a final message back to the Council. We cannot stop them. They are not like us. They fight with their hearts. And when a species fights with its heart, nothing can stand in its way. The war of fury raged across the stars, unstoppable and unending. Each victory carried the echo of a promise: for ardent flame, for the fallen, for freedom. And though the Council still held power, though their stronghold still stood, every passing day brought them closer to the edge of collapse. The galaxy had changed. The Council no longer seemed like gods. They seemed weak, desperate, broken, and above them, humanity rose higher and higher, their fury burning brighter than any sun. The war was not over, but one truth had already been written in fire across the stars. The Council could never defeat humanity. The war had burned across the stars for months. Council fleets that once ruled the galaxy now hid in shattered sectors. Their proud banners, once symbols of order, lay torn among the ruins of broken warships. Humanity's fury had left scars the galaxy would never forget. At last, the Council itself stood cornered. Their fleets were gone. Their armies were scattered. Their allies, once loyal, now abandoned them in silence. The great chamber of the Council, where once 1,000 voices argued with pride, now sat in fear and trembling. The doors opened. Every delegate turned as the human envoy entered. But it was not a soldier, not an admiral, not even a general. It was a survivor, a woman named Alara Voss, the governor of Ardent Flame. She had lived through the burning of her world, scarred but unbroken. She walked with slow, steady steps, her eyes burning brighter than any weapon. Behind her, no guards followed. She did not need them. The silence of the chamber was proof of humanity's power. High Speaker Drazik rose to speak, but his voice failed. For the first time in his life, he could not find words. He sat down, his face pale as Ilara's voice filled the hall. You called it protection, she began softly. Her words echoed in the silence. You called it order. You called it necessary. But we know what it was. It was fear. You feared humanity. You feared our strength, our unity, our will to endure. Her voice hardened, each word striking like a hammer. And so you tried to chain us. You sent your fleets. You burned our homes. You killed our children. You thought we would bow, but we are human. We do not bow. The counselors lowered their eyes. Some trembled. Some wept silently. You crossed the line when you touched ardent flame, she continued, her scarred hands tightening on the edge of the podium. You crossed the line when you thought we would accept your chains. And for that, humanity answered with fury. A heavy silence fell. No one dared to interrupt. We do not seek to rule your stars, Ilara said, her voice calmer now. We do not seek your thrones or your crowns. We seek only what is ours. The right to live free, the right to rise, the right to stand without chains. Her eyes swept across the chamber, meeting every counselor's gaze one by one. Remember this day. Remember what happens when you cross us. We will protect our homes. We will defend our children. And if you try again, the fury you have seen will return, stronger, greater, unstoppable. No counselor spoke. No one argued. No one dared, for they all knew the truth. The council was no longer feared. Humanity was. When Ilara Voss left the chamber, the galaxy changed forever. The council still existed, but it was no longer supreme. Its authority was broken, its pride shattered. Entire species, once silent under its rule, began to whisper of freedom, inspired by the humans who had refused to bow. On Earth, the news spread in moments. People cheered, wept, and embraced. The war had ended not with the destruction of humanity, but with its rise. For the first time, they were not just survivors. They were protectors, guardians of their own destiny. In the skies above, fleets returned home. Soldiers carried scars, both seen and unseen, but their hearts were unbroken. They had fought not for conquest, but for justice. And though the fires of war faded, the memory of ardent flame remained. Every human child learned its story. Every colony carried its name. It became a promise carved into the soul of humanity. Never again. From that day forward, the galaxy carried a new law. It was not written on paper, nor carved in stone, but it was unbreakable, burned into the memory of every species. Never cross humanity. For when the council had crossed the line, humanity had answered with fury, and the stars themselves remembered.